Well, hello there.
Good morning, Rick Walker.
Good
And good
morning.
morning, everybody out there in Maverick land. Good morning, Maverick family. You're not used to seeing us this time of day, but it's a special day.
It is.
Yeah. We're doing live team coverage today of the major announcement by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. What exactly that announcement's going to be, we don't know, but we're going to find out, aren't we, Rick?
We are. He's apparently breaking away from the DNC.
I think it's time. Don't you? I thought it was time on day one of this campaign.
Yeah, well, he was with the wrong party for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the it's not because it isn't the party that it used to be.
Sadly, and you said that like the very first day of the campaign. Remember? It's been a
Yeah.
long time since April 19th. What's it been? 6 months? And we covered that. And you said that very day, you said, wrong party, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
remember that.
His policies don't really fit. His ideology doesn't really quite fit. It's you know, I understand that the Kennedy name is linked to that brand, but
Since 1932, the
yeah,
Kennedys have been Democrats that
but
long.
but now, as some people call them, they're the fascicrats.
I love that. It's so perfect. The
Yeah,
fascicrats. That is truly what they are.
yeah.
And they've
So
sent him every signal, haven't they? That
yeah,
they
we
don't
don't
like
want
him.
you.
They don't
Go
want him.
away.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we hate you. I don't know. I don't
Literally.
know. Yeah, yeah. That's really what you're a conspiracy theorist nut job. Go away. Like, how much clearer do they have to make it? And there
They
was
never ever smeared Bernie Sanders like they've smeared Kennedy.
yeah.
The press was kind of hard on Bernie, the mainstream media, but not like this.
Yeah, but that's because Bernie, they knew that he would bend. They knew.
Obviously, they did.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a party guy. He'll go along to get along at the end of the day to keep his paycheck in his mansions because he doesn't really mean it.
Well, and everybody thought Bernie was anti-war, but he's voted for every single funding package for Ukraine.
Hmm.
He's got a total case of Russia derangement syndrome. And just this week, I think 11 protesters were arrested outside Bernie Sanders' Senate office.
Yeah.
Code Pink,
Yep.
the anti war group.
Did not see it, but I did read about it.
Yeah, he had
And
them arrested.
it's just
And all they were asking was, hey, Bernie, could you stop voting for more money for Ukraine? He had them
yeah.
arrested.
Well, as long as he's getting his money, I don't think he much cares. He'll continue to talk about socialism and be an anti-war guy, and as long as he gets his money.
And vote for Joe. I mean, vote
Fake.
for my friend Joe,
That's right.
Joe
You
Biden.
fake. Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
he was, some people say he changed. I don't know. I was never really a big Bernie Sanders fan. There was always something about him that, even back in the 80s, that kind of screamed fake socialist to me. He was an interesting figure in Congress, and he was often an ally in the fight against the Iraq War that Ron Paul and Dennis Kucinich were waging 20 years ago. Back then, he was a good anti-war ally, but obviously things have changed.
He never appealed to me. Never seemed genuine.
Right.
Always seemed kind of abrasive to me. And I'm not a socialist, so he didn't appeal to me on that front anyway. I'm more of a conservative,
Right.
with a Canadian with Canadian seasoning. So I'm a little bit soft when it comes to social issues, right? But on that side, but no, he
But
he was
a
just
lot of the Trump people and the Republicans, at least in 2016, they kind of liked Bernie. I mean, if
mm-hmm.
somebody had to be the Democratic nominee, even Trump was nicer to Bernie. He'd rather run against Bernie than Hillary Clinton. Even a lot of Republicans would have rather had Bernie than Hillary Clinton as the opponent.
Yeah, because everything in politics has changed over the last probably 10 years.
Yeah.
So now you have conservatives who used to be viewed as the party of big corporations and big business, now becoming the party of the working people, the working class. Bernie, the socialists, the Democrats. Even though Biden is running around the country saying that he's the most pro-labor president in history, he's clearly not. It's just the opposite. He's a corporatist.
He's a fascist.
He's a fascist. He is. Sorry, that's what he is. That's
What's
exactly
that
what
term?
he is.
Demo-fascist, huh?
Fascocrats.
Fascocrats. That's going to stick. I like that.
That's what
Well,
he
that's
is.
one thing Bobby Kennedy is not. He's been consistently anti-war all of his life. Even as a teenager, he opposed the Vietnam War. And I guess he was one of those lucky kids that was just that right age that about the time he would have been sent to that war, it ended. Right?
Well,
So
he checks all the boxes for the MAGA people, as well as the people on the Democrat side who would have otherwise supported Sanders. So he's an absolute threat to Donald Trump. On all those,
he
all
is.
those
And
issues.
you know what? I have to tell you, I was on a Twitter space the other day, one of those Mario Knopfel spaces with Dr. Sebastian Gorka, right? One of Trump's most devoted supporters. And the conversation turned to RFK Jr. running as an independent. And Gorka just tore into Bobby, right? Like he's a nobody. He's a kook. He's a freak, right? He's not going to get anywhere with this, basically. And I could just tell by how defensive he was that Team Trump is worried. They're very worried about Bobby. And I think they've got attacks coming on him. The Republicans have been so nice to Bobby since this campaign started. They liked him great when he was running against Joe Biden as a Democrat. But now if he goes independent, they know he's going to take votes away from Trump.
Even Steve Bannon has been very kind to RFK Jr. All the conservative podcasters, all the pro-MAGA, pro-Trump live streamers, influencers. I mean, I think they've been giving him the Tulsi Gabbard treatment, right? Like, oh, hey, come on over here. You can be one of us because you sort of are. And now things are about to change in a pretty major way. Yeah. So now he's a direct threat. So
I mean,
I
even
think you're
Sean
right.
Hannity was nice to him.
Yeah, that's true. But that's why I said from the
Even
beginning
Sean
too.
Hannity was nice to him.
He was with the wrong party. He should have been with the Republicans or doing what he's about to do now.
You never know what he's going to do now. I mean, everyone thinks he's going to run independent. All the signs are pointing that way, but there's still a question that he could run with the Libertarian Party or the Republican Party. He might just surprise everyone today and do the thing you're not expecting him to do. That's Bobby.
So you're not you don't know. So but you must have a pretty good inkling. I mean, you're tied in with the campaign.
Yeah, but I'm sworn
Spill the
to
beans.
secrecy.
Tell me what's going on. Just give it up. What's the inside?
Then I would
inside dope
spoil
on
the
this?
surprise.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil the surprise. I'm enjoying the suspense as much as everybody else.
No, you're not.
Really, because
you know exactly
even the
what's
people
going
that
on.
know Bobby, no, you don't understand. The people who know Bobby, even his family and the people closest to him, he can throw you a curveball sometimes. I mean, you just never really know with this guy. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. You'll
Yeah, I don't
see.
believe you. I think you know, and you're just not sharing it. Tell us, Laurie, what's going on? You know. I think I think we have a delay here between my voice and your voice.
Yeah,
This is weird.
I hope it cleared his link to the media pool feed
Yeah.
if you don't have it. I'll put that in the private chat for you.
Okay.
That should be starting here in about 30 minutes. We've also got reporters on the ground there today in Philadelphia. Our friend Tyler Nixon, who was with us Saturday night on Strange Bedfellows, obviously a big Kennedy fan, and he's coming all the way from Denver, Colorado with his mom, right? Remember, he told us the story Saturday night about how his mom was like a young college student. She got to attend JFK's inauguration. She got to attend JFK's inaugural party after the inaugural. And then sadly, she attended his funeral 3 years later, and it changed her life. So today, imagine what that would be like for her. How much this is going to mean to someone like her, getting to go to Philadelphia for this, to get to see his nephew make this announcement.
Well, so he's been anti-war, but this situation in with Israel and Palestine, that is going to complicate politics as people choose sides in that conflict. And
Oh,
he has
yeah.
already come out on the side of Israel, which,
Big time.
yeah. How do you think that will affect public support for him in America?
Rick, if I could tell you how many friends of mine in the anti war movement on the left and the right have gotten a hold of me in the last 2 days since he put out that tweet after the war was declared over there in the Middle East, saying, I can't vote for this guy. I'm out. I literally know some people who were planning to go to Philadelphia today, and they were in love with Bobby 3 days ago. And they said, I'm canceling my ticket and I'm not going. That's the truth. He lost a lot of people with that tweet. And that tweet, honestly, I get that he's pro Israel. That's fine. It's not a deal breaker for me. I disagree on a lot of what he says, but the tweet, it was so George Bush. It was very John McCain. It was too hawkish for me because he was basically promising unconditional, unending military support for Israel. I think we all know where that could lead. And just today we see Israel attacking Lebanon. We see Iran about to get involved in this thing. If the Middle East goes up in flames, folks, World War III just escalated beyond all proportion. I'm very worried about it. And I don't like to hear hawkish talk like that, but that's what we're getting now from every presidential candidate in the race. And to Cornel West's credit, he's the only one that I know of the candidates who has asked for both sides to cease hostilities. And he tends to be obviously pro-Palestine. But his tweet was the most sensitive and nuanced, I thought. But man, Bobby just came out guns a-blazing. Whew. I was like, calm down. Let's just calm down a little bit. Never tweet when you're angry. There are two rules of social media, folks. Never tweet when you're drunk and never tweet when you're angry. And obviously he wrote that tweet in a fit of passion and anger. And who could blame him for being angry? I mean, we've all seen the shocking videos.
Yeah, well, there were videos, though, that I saw that were posted immediately during and after the initial attack on Israel that were then deleted, taken down, censored because they were so graphic.
They were. Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that. It, I think sometimes when it comes to war, it would be best for people to see exactly what it really is. But when they sanitize it, it makes it a lot easier for people to support it.
How do you sanitize barbarity like we have seen? I mean, I don't watch mainstream news any more than I have to. I don't know if you've caught much mainstream coverage of this over the weekend, but are they showing the really graphic stuff? They're probably blurring it, the worst images.
No, no, you see buildings on fire with
Yeah.
smoke, from a distance. That's what you see.
Right. They show you the airstrikes.
Yeah. And interesting, a memo circulating, leaked from CBC television.
What's
And
that?
well, CBC in general. I don't know if you've seen this. Directing all their reporters to not use the word terrorist or terrorism when referring to Hamas. So they're under orders not to use the word terrorist or terrorism when talking about Hamas.
Well, you've probably heard, and I don't know if there's any way to verify these reports. They're just online reports, mostly coming from some pretty big influencers on the right, tying this to our southern border crisis. And they say that there are sleeper cells of Hamas all across the United States and Canada, just waiting to strike.
Well,
And maybe that's why they're telling the media to cool it with the talk of calling them terrorists.
no, that's not why.
What do you think?
It's consistent with CBC worldview. Very consistent. Has been for a long time. But when a memo like
Interesting.
that comes out, it just confirms for people who know and understand.
Maybe that's a little different in Canada. Because here in the States, I mean, certainly our media has been calling Hamas a terrorist group for 20 years. Certainly Fox News does. And I don't think they're going to stop.
Yeah, certainly, on the conservative side, that's true. Yeah, it's conservative media for sure. CBC, no, I understand why the memo was written. And these reports of sleeper cells, well, I'll put it to you this way. Let me give you just a little Canadian nugget. Yesterday, downtown Toronto, blocked off again, all around Queen's Park. Sorry, your no audio. Your mic is muted.
Oh, sorry.
That's good.
Yeah. So this time they were blocked it off not because of the convoy, but because of the pro-Palestine protests in Toronto.
No, it was because of the convoy. But
Oh,
you have to start to connect dots. What happened before the convoy? How many people were marching in the streets across the country? Hundreds of thousands, right? Who joined the Christians to march across the country? Hundreds of thousands,
Right.
hundreds of thousands in cities across Canada for an issue, which was centered around parental rights, they say, and LGBTQ, drag queen story time, stuff like that. But that's the galvanizing issue. There's another march coming up on the 21st. Anyway, I'll just kind of leave it there because I don't want to extrapolate too much or make any predictions that I can't back up. But you can start to connect some dots, right?
very
And,
interesting.
Yeah, and there were a few people that did go down there yesterday to Queen's Park in Toronto to talk to, I don't know how many cop cars there were. There had to be 100, maybe more. I don't know, all the streets were blocked off around Queen's Park, which is the capital of Ontario, provincially. And there's still all that stuff going on up in Ottawa. They're still there. Haven't left. just saying.
As long as they're staying
Anyway.
peaceful, as long as they're
So far.
staying peaceful, they can protest all day long.
Anyway, didn't mean to
That's
take
their
it down
right.
that road. We can get back on the RFK stuff. Oh my. But yeah, no, the Hamas thing. No, I see what efforts are being made in both countries in that regard, and this complicates everything. It's and as soon as you start going down, you start dealing with this conflict between Israel and Palestine, the politics gets a little bit blurry too, because it's hard to understand like the ideologies that drive some of this stuff. And it's difficult, almost difficult to predict who's going to end up on which side. But it's pretty clear to me the United States comes down on the side of Israel, Russia comes down on the side of the Palestinians, Hamas, Hezbollah.
Oh yeah.
And here's the irony in that. Hezbollah is an awfully
I'm not so
fascistic
sure about
group.
that. There has been no such announcement by Russia.
No.
Just to be clear,
Well, sure.
no such announcement by Russia.
I'm
at least not yet.
I'm wargaming this out over the long haul. So who would come down on which side if there was if it escalates to a point of conflict where we have an actual world war? And if you look at the journalists who are, aligned one way or the other ideologically and politically, you can see that the people on the left, the lefties more are on the Palestinian side. The conservatives are more on the Israeli side. And yet, the ideologies don't seem to align somehow. I don't see how like Hezbollah aligns with left-wing socialist values, but there they are.
Well, yeah.
That's kind of what I'm saying. It's difficult to make sense of some of this stuff, any of it really.
Politics is confusing as hell these days, isn't it?
Yep.
And you know who else is confused? The mainstream media. I don't know if you've seen the coverage. I'm just sitting here looking at the morning headlines about RFK Jr. and his big announcement. I was looking at what NBC had to say in Politico, and I landed on this article by CNN, and boy, they're really scratching their heads, trying to figure this thing out. You can tell they're worried. They're definitely worried. I think the headline is like, Kennedy's making a big splash as an independent candidate, but it won't last. They want to tell you this isn't going to last. But, they do admit, at least I noticed that the tone of the mainstream media's coverage of Kennedy's campaign is finally starting to change. We're not seeing conspiracy theorist or anti-vaxxer in the headlines as much anymore. In fact, several articles don't insult him at all. They're acknowledging now that he has good, solid poll numbers. And, they cited this Reuters Ipsos poll, which was conducted this past week among likely voters. And it shows Trump in the lead. All these polls show Trump in the lead, not by much. He's only ahead 2 points. Trump at 40%, Biden 38%, and Kennedy coming in at 14% in a hypothetical three-way race next November. And that's well within the margin of error between Trump and Biden. 2% isn't much. But, most polls showed Trump leading Biden by 2 to 5% right now. Kennedy anywhere between 14 and 20%, depending on the poll. But, as they acknowledge in this CNN article, as much as it pains them to do so, from a historical perspective, 14% coming in that high this early in the race, quite unusual. Like Gary Johnson, the 2016 Libertarian nominee for president, he came in, I think about 10 to 12%. about this time in the race. But, they can't find an instance, and I can tell you there isn't one, of any third party or independent candidate getting to 14% in a national poll since Ross Perot in 1996. Now, of course, they want to poo poo that and say, well, by next November, he won't get that many votes. He won't do that well. I say he's going to do a hell of a lot better than 14%. I think he'll do better than Ross Perot did in 1992. And I'm not just saying that because I support him. I honestly see that happening as a political analyst.
Do you
How do
think
you
he can
think he'd
actually,
do?
in the end?
Yeah,
Are you asking?
by, next November.
I think it's completely unpredictable right now.
Did I lose
And I
you?
think it has less, honestly, I think it has less to do with him
Yeah, how do you
and
predict?
more to do with the other two candidates. What happens to them and what they do. Will Joe Biden live? Or will he fall down and have an aneurysm?
Again.
Again, I don't know. Will Trump self destruct? Will he say something so incredibly stupid that he blows up his own campaign? Will he, or will he hang on? Because he doesn't seem to have momentum, he just has the lead. That's what he has. It's his to lose, and he has a long way to go before he gets to the end. So, Donald Trump, yeah, he could easily lose this thing.
Trump has a lead, but it's not a comfortable lead.
No,
He's
it's
got
been
a comfortable
eroding.
lead over all of his Republican
Yeah.
challengers, but over Joe Biden, nope. Every
If
poll
you
shows him really close.
if you look at, I think if you graphed it out, you'd see a steady market decline every week, every month. Trump loses a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more because it's just one thing after another. He sort of, I think, has peaked and now he's losing steam. But anything can happen in politics. He still has time to rally again and pick up more support. A lot depends on world affairs, current events, what's in the news cycle, how they respond to it, and it'll come down probably to the last month. I I don't know. If you go back and look at what happened to Trump in 2016, everything seemed to go his way. Everything in the news seemed to just go his way. Mainstream media said he doesn't stand a chance. There's no way he'll become president. It's a million percent for Hillary Clinton and zero for Donald Trump. It's just,
Yeah,
but if you were,
98% on
yeah, that's
election
right,
day. Hillary's
that's
going to
right.
win by 98%.
But nope.
Sure, she will.
But I don't know if it was luck or if it was, I don't know, divine intervention or what it was for Donald Trump. But all the news, everything in the news seemed to just go his way at the time. Every single day, it was like something else just would help him and would help him, whether it was the WikiLeaks thing that hurt Hillary Clinton or when he went to Mexico to meet with the president of Mexico, and then she comes in and says, "Well, that's not the way you do it." I think everyone looked at that and said, "Well, actually, that's exactly how you would do it." So he went down there and had that meeting, and that made him look very presidential. After she had just said that he didn't look like he was presidential material. Everything just went his way. It was different when he was up against Biden, but a lot had changed in that amount of time as well. So this time around, it's a whole new ball game.
It just seems like the bloom is off the rose with Trump. You
Of
know,
course.
we've known him as a candidate now for what, 7 years?
Hmm.
Been 7 years now as a politician Trump.
Yep.
You know what you're going to get with Trump. I don't think he has too many surprises up his sleeve anymore. The great thing about Trump was always the element of surprise. You never knew what he might do next or what you're going to get. But after 4 years with Trump the extra year campaigning, couple of years of campaigning, you know what you're going to get.
And the first time around, there was hope that he would clean things up, take America back to make it great again. But now it's, I think a lot of people are just tired of it, tired of the rhetoric, tired of him, as they would be with any politician that they've been hearing from for a long time. Tired of the complaining, tired of, I'm a victim, they treat me terrible.
Every speech,
Yeah.
every interview,
Yeah.
Since 2020. And even before that, I mean, his whole presidency was him whining about witch hunts and everybody's out to get me and
Which,
nobody loves me.
yeah, which is sort of true, right? But
Oh,
at the
yeah.
same time, man, you're supposed to be the president of the United States. Why don't you fight back? Just quit belly aching and get even, or fix it.
Drain that swamp.
Exactly.
That's why we sent you to Washington, sir.
Yeah, quit complaining about it. What did you expect would happen? You went in there and you said you were going to get rid of them all. They're all afraid of you. No wonder
you
they're
hired them.
attacking you.
Yeah, you
Yeah, just-
hired the swamp.
Get them out. But he didn't do it.
No, he didn't. And I voted for Trump in 2016,
Yeah.
supported him, and he lost me right off the bat. Rick, when I saw who he was filling his cabinet with, and then I saw that he, had Jeff Sessions turn around and go right after WikiLeaks and Mike Pompeo. They made it their first priority of that administration in early 2017. And I didn't hang around after that. I just couldn't, there was
Sessions,
nothing he
my
could
God,
do.
what a disappointment that guy was. What was he thinking? Well, I think that he thought that Sessions was just loyal because he was one of the first to come out to support Trump.
That's right.
So
It should have been
it's-
Giuliani.
Yeah.
That's who should have been his attorney general. It's one of the biggest mistakes Trump ever made.
Oh yeah.
Was not putting Giuliani in
The
at the
biggest
DOJ.
because Sessions left him wide open to the attacks when he recused himself.
Right?
Yes, and he was like, oh, and you could tell Trump was furious. Like, what are you doing, recusing yourself? You're supposed to protect me, right? Which was the wrong thing to say because he's not supposed to intervene in legal matters like that on a political level. So that was the wrong thing to say, but it's true. That's what the attorney general is supposed to really kind of do. That's why you appoint the attorney general. You're there to sort of insulate the president from political attacks on a lawfare level. And he failed to do that. Idiot.
And then
That's what Sessions was.
And he recused himself right off the bat on all matters pertaining to Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought this guy is he's weak. He's stupid. Like he's a lawyer, right? But like dumb as a rock, that guy.
Well, and I
Unbelievable.
didn't like him too because he wanted to go after the pot smokers.
It's just like,
He wanted to make prosecuting weed cases a top priority. It was like the 80s all over again. I'm like, that's not going to fly in modern day America when more than half the states have already legalized marijuana in some form or fashion. Yeah, it's not 1938.
if Trump hadn't appointed him attorney general, the Trump presidency would have been entirely different because they never would have been able to come after him on the legal side the way that they did. It would have been an entirely different story. Guaranteed. Biggest mistake he made. It just showed that really, because Trump was an outsider, he didn't really understand how the system worked. And as soon as he did that, when he appointed Jeff Sessions and he recused himself and he left himself wide open to the lawfare attacks, he made it impossible to actually drain the swamp. He didn't have the leverage or the tools anymore. He was crippled right from the very beginning. That was his single biggest mistake right there.
Oh, there's a lot of big mistakes. I mean, he hired John Bolton for
Yeah.
crying out loud, and
Yeah.
and Mike Pompeo and General Milley.
But even
Everyone
with
likes to
Pompeo, he
criticize
was,
General Milley. That was Trump's guy.
yeah. But see, even with Pompeo there, he was still able to achieve some of what he wanted to achieve on the foreign policy side. Whether you were talking about his, his approach to Israel, right, and stuff like that. But domestically, he just with Sessions, that was the mistake because then he just was completely preoccupied all the time with these attacks, and no way to defend himself, right? And they crippled him. The other
Oh, and then he
guys,
followed up with an even worse attorney general in Bill Barr.
well, yeah, I mean,
Bill Barr was even worse, I think.
well, no, I don't think he was worse. He just was ineffective and he was disingenuous. He didn't really support Trump.
Oh,
He
no.
sort of appeared to be. He was conservative and things seemed to be going okay for a while. But the reality, and he wasn't really. No, he was stabbing him in the back rooms, and
Exactly.
really, and he was just kind of like paying lip service to it, but then not taking any action. He wasn't really
Like all the
providing any support
rhinos.
either. No.
That's all the rhinos who
Yeah.
had to support Trump because he was their nominee
Yeah.
and then their president. But all these guys were rhinos, and they really didn't like him, never liked him, like Mitt Romney, like Chris
Yeah.
Christie. I could go on. Nikki Haley, who I don't think ever liked Trump, and he hired every last one of them. It's
That's
just
because his
amazing.
bench isn't deep enough. He didn't have enough talent around him. Bannon even talked about that after after he got rid of Bannon, who was probably the guy that he should have kept around because he was truly one of his biggest supporters, always was from the very beginning. I don't know what the heck happened there, but he cast him out. I think Trump was probably listening to the rhinos around him who told him that Bannon had to go. But no, he should have kept Bannon there.
Oh, I think he should have too. I
Yeah.
think getting rid of Bannon was a big mistake. But all of the old loyal, the most loyal to Trump, most of them were forced out by the deep state actors that he
Yeah.
hired.
That's
By
right.
the end, the only one left from the original crew was Kellyanne Conway. She stayed loyal no matter what. Her and Giuliani.
And actually, so has Steve Bannon. Even though Trump
Mhm.
called him sloppy Steve Bannon, and then
Yeah,
he went to jail. Well, he didn't go to jail.
right.
Did Bannon end up in jail? No, he didn't go to jail. Just
He didn't
constantly
actually
being
go
no.
yet.
But anyway,
Yet.
yeah, yet, yeah.
They're
But
working on it.
yeah, but he comes back and he's still pro Trump, right? Even though Trump has attacked him, and now
Totally.
they've come back around, and I think Trump has wised up, and he's like, oh, that guy actually does actually support me, so he
And
doesn't
he's
call
a
him sloppy Steve
genius.
Bannon anymore. Yeah, he is a very
Yeah.
smart guy.
I mean,
Yeah,
George Bush wouldn't fire his Karl Rove.
no,
Trump wouldn't get rid of his Steve Bannon. If he did, it would be a really stupid move.
now
He's
it
going
would
to
be
need Steve Bannon. He's going to need Kellyanne Conway. He's going to need Giuliani. Those are the primary drivers of his winning campaign in
he should bring those
2016.
guys back, man, if he wants to win. But do you remember the what was it? What was the international incident right after Trump was elected, and they were having some sort of an event, and there was a picture of them with Bannon and him and a few of the other people who were very close to him, and they were around a table, and they were looking at the intelligence or the information. Was it an attack on? It was an attack on something, and they got the intelligence. So rather than take it into a private room someplace, they were at this Trump rally fundraiser or whatever it was. Do you know what I'm talking about? And the media talked about this and in a way that it really made him look amateurish because it was like, why would the president be strategizing a response to it was some bombing or something someplace. Anyway, Bannon was there. It wasn't long after that that Bannon and they were all starting to get purged. It was I can't remember. I'm sorry. Shouldn't bring things up that I can't remember. But it was a pivotal moment in that because it was the optics on it. The media made it look like Trump didn't know what he was doing. That his team around him was weak because they just didn't know how to respond in a really professional way, which
They
is
didn't
to
know how to Washington.
yes, that's
What you
right. That's
mean?
exactly right.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
didn't know how to
they're doing it their
Washington
own
yet.
way. It was kind of like the McDonald's hamburger version of
Bunch of
foreign
damn
policy.
hillbillies
Yeah, but
just rolled in, country bumpkins,
but
rolled off the turnip truck into the White House.
my point is, Trump shouldn't have let that bother him, and I think that it did. He should have just kept those people around him, those key people, because they would have provided insulation and protection from the deep state and the rhinos and the others who were ultimately hired and were in their offices driving, you know, digging knives deep into his back without him realizing it.
Oh, well, how see that's just it, Rick. To me, that's why I can't bring myself to vote for Trump again because it all comes down to judgment. And nobody could make that many mistakes and still be considered a stable genius. Just saying. You know, I think Kennedy's getting started, actually.
Oh,
They're supposed to go, I think they said they're going to start their live stream at 11:45. So it should be getting started right about now.
okay.
We want to pull up that stream, see if we got
Yeah, let
anything
me
yet.
see if I can get to it.
But, you know, if if the choices are Trump and Biden and nobody else, like if Kennedy drops out, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I guess I'll vote for whoever the libertarian is. That's what I've done for the last 27 years, pretty much.
Well, now
With
we
the
know that he's
exception of
not going to run for the
2016.
Libertarians because you just said that. So,
Yeah, I'd say there's about a 90% chance that he's unfortunately not running with my party, the Libertarian Party. Actually, Angela McArdle, who's the chair of the National Libertarian Party, saw her interviewed yesterday, and Caleb Maupin was talking to her, and he asked her, "So, is Kennedy going to run with the Libertarian Party?" And she says, "Your guess is as good as mine.
yeah,
I don't know what he's going to say tomorrow."
Yeah.
I know the feeling, Angela. Are we live yet over there?
No, it doesn't
so.
look like it. I've got the YouTube thingy here and the other feed there, but I'm not seeing any action yet.
Yeah. I noticed that our reporters on the ground, we've got Nick Brana. Nick Brana. Sorry, Nick. I botched your name. I know how to say his name. It's Nick Brana. Our friend Nick Brana is down there on the ground, and also Tyler Nixon. And I haven't heard from them in a while. So I don't know. It's probably just packed and it's hard to get in and get seated. I would think that you could expect some serious security pat downs and inspecting every bag of every person that comes in, especially after what happened in LA a few weeks back with that Adrian Spiro guy. I would think security at this event will be very, very tight. Very, very tight.
Well, yeah, there's no feed coming out yet for us to pick up the pool feed, but we'll get there.
And this event today, if you're familiar with Philadelphia, if you've ever been to the Cradle of American Liberty, visited the National Constitution Center over there on Arch Street, that's where this event is taking place. It'll be on Independence Mall, right across the street there from the National Constitution Center. And what better place could he pick to make an announcement declaring his independence from the Democrats, from the Democratic Party machine, than Independence Hall, Independence Mall?
So we were on that X space, Twitter space, whatever space you want to call it, kind of space the other night, talking about this.
Yeah, that kind of space.
And we talked about branding. And I see we have Tyler joining us in the
I
back.
think
room.
Tyler
Should we bring
Nixon's
him in?
trying to join us. Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Looks like he's connected there.
Hello, Tyler. How are you?
Hey, Tyler.
I'm trying to switch the camera around here so I can see the actual speed.
My friends, ladies and gentlemen,
It's hard to hear you. We can hear the noise in the
Yes.
background, but we can't hear you very well.
the Roman Tyler,
I'm having to go through my Bluetooth on this.
commemorating
That's better.
many
Okay,
innocent
yeah.
lives
Just,
lost to terrorists
Yes, that is a bit better.
every day.
Yeah.
well, it's a brilliant day out here.
Looks beautiful.
It really is. It's picturesque. It's quite a crowd.
And let us
We're
now
actually having to sit in the overflow area.
pray for peace.
Let me see if I can.
Yesterday,
Is that Dennis Kucinich I hear in the background?
No, it's not. It sounds like him though. You're right about that.
Yeah, it kind of does. I figured he'd make a speech too.
Never.
Sorry, it's so bright out here.
What? You didn't bring your cool Blues Brothers shades, man?
I have them here, but I wouldn't see anything. Let's see, I'm just
I
trying
know
to see
you're a
how
Blues Brothers fan.
I can flip the camera around. Oh, let me go look at not in the sun. But it is such a nice day. Beautiful, picturesque. I mean, I said it's a good crowd out here. People are lined up.
My beloved friend Bobby Kennedy,
So
who has personally known
it
both
looks like they've obviously started the speeches maybe a little early because it was supposed to start at noon. I imagine
both
Bobby will
illumination,
be out probably by 1.
but heart-wrenching sorrow. The wisdom to lead humanity to this fundamental of all
Did you get to
recognition.
bring your mom? Is mom there?
Yes, he is. In fact,
Mom Nixon.
Face
I
of
love
religion,
that.
of creed, is possessed of the infinite spark of the divine, that we are all equally God's children.
There she is.
My mother.
Hi, Mom.
Oh, we're talking to somebody. Hi.
Yep.
Hello.
And then
Hello
I got her.
there.
This is a man
She can't hear you, but,
who served as a pallbearer
obviously,
at the funeral of
she's
his
got.
own
I got her.
father when
This
he
is a
was
Jackie
14
Kennedy
years old.
brooch.
He knows.
Oh, I love
Jackie
that.
He
Kennedy.
knows,
Died in 60.
and he knows the need
One or
for
two.
peace.
Gifted to
Laurie,
her.
yeah.
Let me just
Cool.
You should better get seen there.
American government has not given Bobby Kennedy secret service protection. After all,
I don't.
the
People are kind of.
family is
I'm not a very bold videographer when it comes to pushing my way past people. So, but let's see. I'll turn around so you can see if you can see
Yeah,
the.
give us a look around.
So it's hard for me to see because the camera's small for the. But can you see the audio, the stage and all?
Yes.
And so behind, of course, it's really cool bus. We've got the Kennedy bus. You see that?
Oh, that's Kyle Kemper's bus.
He's how Bobby
The
illuminated.
Kennedy
But
mobile.
what an
cool.
amazing place for him to announce here at the Constitution Center. And obviously, Independence Hall is just right
Yeah.
back. You can see it behind me in the distance there. Obviously, the
is.
Constitution was promulgated. But
The wolf will finally
it's a good,
lie down
really
for
good
lamb.
mix of people here today.
When enemies will bury their swords into plowshares. And no man will ever
Yeah, I see
So-
people of all
on
ages.
the art of war.
There. Well, now my
And this
phone, I
is
can actually see now. So,
of the three Abrahamic faiths.
so I'm going to turn it around so you can see. Now
Oh,
they
there
have
we go.
quite a bit of media there as well.
Ah, there's the press pin.
Yes. Yeah, there's there's
Oh,
a
by
bunch
the
of
way,
cameras here.
Tyler. Tyler, I don't know if you can hear me, but
I
got
can. Yes.
Give
email.
Bobby the wisdom to
I got an
transform
email
any
from the press office at Team Kennedy a few minutes
Okay.
ago, and they said
Oh, well,
that
I mean,
you,
area.
if you like, you can sit with the press. Just tell
Okay,
them you're with
so-
Maverick News.
Okay,
They'll let you
so,
in over there. If
yeah,
you
let me
wish.
see
You
that.
might already be settled somewhere with your mom, but if you want
Well,
to
see,
go over
no,
there,
actually, she's set up, but I'd like to be able to stream it for you guys. I mean, obviously, there's streaming as well.
Give Bobby the courage to
If I can get a little closer, that'd be great.
yeah, They can
let
hook
me
you
let me
up.
see if I can.
Expecting you.
Okay, great. Let me. I'll walk over. Are you streaming it as well? Can you, or is it started streaming?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
we're
it's all
live.
live. We're live right now.
Live
Oh,
right now.
excuse me.
So we'll walk on over to the press tent and we'll say hello.
Yeah. I'm with Maverick News, and then they just put my name in, so I didn't. So let me check. Hi, Laurie Spencer, Maverick News. She said they just put my name in. I don't know.
Are you on the list or no?
Laurie, am I on the list? Do you know?
Yeah, they should have added you. I got an
Yes,
email.
should have added
confirming
me.
it.
He should get an email from the press office. Tyler Nixon is my name. Nixon. A Nixon for Kennedy.
Watch, they're gonna act like they've never heard of you.
Yeah. It might have been just put in.
Yeah, I don't know. This is from last night.
Okay, sure. I'll add it. You got it.
Tell them to look under Spencer, Lori Spencer, maybe.
It
Maverick
might be
News.
Spencer as well. Yeah. I'll just put mine.
See how much politics has changed? You have a
Oh, yeah,
Nixon
for sure.
covering a Kennedy.
That's true. We're broadcasting things.
It's crazy, I know.
And where do I need to go from here? I do.
It'll get through security
Perfect.
without being in line. You see where that blue frame is?
Yes.
Go there and there's a guy with an earpiece. Tell him.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm Marie.
Maria, nice to meet you. All right. Well, looks like we're on our
Hey,
way.
Tyler.
Yes.
Tyler, I
Yes.
forwarded
Can you hear me?
to you the email. Yes. Can you hear me?
I just got it. Yes, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, I just sent you a copy of the email from the press office. You might need to show
All
it
right.
to somebody just
I
to
think
prove
they gave
that
me
you're good.
and so-
I know. We
Great.
can't go in. It's still-
Oh,
you have
okay.
to go to that
The other side, or okay. Well, I guess they're full. Right. Well, I have the press thing, but they're not letting anybody in. Yes. So. Yeah, I don't know what. I guess it's full. It doesn't look full to me. I don't know. They're kind of giving us the. Maybe I'll try the other one. The other one.
All right,
See if I
well,
can get on
if
that.
I move,
Yeah, no, you
I'm
just
gonna
stay
go
here.
over and see
Stay.
if there's any. That's
You sure? I don't think they.
We're watching Tyler try to get in.
Was an infamous section jumper in the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, okay.
I believe
It'd be
it.
different.
I mean, I would go from like, the nosebleed, literally the stratosphere down to like the first row by the time
Front row.
second set.
Yeah, I learned a few tricks along the way.
So let me see if I can get you guys some shot. I don't know how good the forward-facing camera is, but can you see that?
Yes.
Looks like Kennedy is going live right now, Rick. I see the pool
There we
feed
go.
is starting.
There's quite a bunch.
Ladies and gentlemen, the manager of Kennedy 24, Congressman Dennis Kucinich and Mrs. Elizabeth Kucinich.
There you go. So, here comes Dennis.
Hello,
So my mother
America!
just disappeared and abandoned me with the chair. I'm going to see if I can get a hold of
I am
Dennis.
very excited to join you on this momentous occasion.
I did email him.
I want to thank all of you who have traveled from across the United States for this moment. This journey that you've made is part of the journey that America is about to make. And are you ready for today? Are you ready for the next president of the United States, Bobby Kennedy?
Occasion. I want to thank all of you who have traveled
country's
across
journey.
the United States for this moment. This journey that you've made is part of the journey that America is about to make. And are you ready for today? Woo-hoo. Are you ready for the next president of the United States, Bobby Kennedy? This country's journey began in 1776, right behind you on this beautiful mall. As we hear these bells tolling right now, the bells are tolling for the beginning of a new America, an America which lives up to the promise which was brought forth in 1776 of the equality of all people, that all men and women are created equal. It is up to us to help this promise evolve. And this is what this campaign is all about. It is about an evolutionary journey towards freedom, towards confirming the potency of our Constitution, towards reclaiming our basic rights, towards unity as a nation, towards bringing us all together, towards lifting up the cause of nationhood. This is a new America that we are creating at this very moment. And so, to each of you, to confirm the journey that you have made to this moment, let's gather together with a firm resolve that we are prepared to move America forward on a new path that in many ways is uncharted. But the chart that we have is the courage that is in our heart. It's the vision that we hold for an America that can be, and together we will make it happen. Thank you very much. Let's move forward. Thank you.
It's Kennedy 24 campaign manager, Dennis Kucinich, of course. Longtime congressman in the House of Representatives.
Morning.
Two-time presidential candidate. Crowd's looking
Ladies
good.
and gentlemen, New Jersey Assembly Member Emeritus Jamel Holly.
Good morning. Are you ready for Kennedy 24? At this time, please face towards the flags for our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. America, are you ready for the next president of the United States of America?
Hell yeah.
I can't hear you. Are you ready for the next president of the United States of America?
I said hell yeah.
This is just the beginning right here. But these, his message gets out.
What a beautiful day in Philadelphia. Looks really nice. Kennedy weather.
Okay, you want to take the chair?
Ladies and gentlemen, Harry Manalo.
Ladies and gentlemen, Carrie Manalakis, Broadway actress, singer, songwriter, to sing America the Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesties above the fruity plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country love and mercy more than life. America, make I thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Thank you. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a Sishangu Lakota member, Lower Brule Sioux Tribal Council member, Black Hills Sioux Nation Treaty delegate from Lower Brule Band of Sioux Nations, Louis Grassrope.
Hello, relatives. Good to be here. I'm here to do the invocation. The first part, and the first and foremost part we must always do as relatives is always recognize the relatives, the lands that we're on. It's always about the land recognition. So, first and foremost, we must humbly ask for forgiveness of our ancestors of these lands and the nations that reside in these lands. We're guests here in these lands of these native nations, and we must pay our respect to them also. And it's an honor to be here to speak before at this event. So I'm going to be talking in between Lakota and English. How mitakiapi apetukile michante eta woglake naha nape chiuzaplo. Wichak bikasapa imachiapi. Na mila hanska ea Louis Grassrope hemacha. Shichangu Lakota eta Lukui chasha oyate hemacha na pejuwa kantioshpe. Said, hi, my relatives. I come today to speak from my heart and offer my hand. Wise Star is my Lakota name, and my name is Louis Grassrope from the Lower Brule Band of Sioux Nation of Indians. I'm a current Lower Brule Sioux Tribal Council member and a Black Hills Sioux Nation Treaty Council delegate from the Lower Brule Band of Sioux Nation of Indians, and a grassroots leader and organizer on current issues within our Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota nations. We are gathered here today on this Indigenous Peoples Day within Turtle Island to remember our native ancestors and the descendants within their ancestral lands that we call the United States of America. For us native descendants, it's been our acknowledgement of our kinship to our ancestral teachings, of our native origins to these lands and the protections that were promised through our treaties. This day is in recognition of those native ancestors who showed their warrior spirit to maintain our beliefs and our value systems left for us as a guidance to protect Mother Earth. The blueprints they left for us native descendants is to continue to walk in our natural ways of life and bring balance to a world that is divided in many ways. We're in a time of hardships, And it's up to the people of this world to come together and find better pathways for our future generations. As we pray silently and in our own way or openly is for peace for all creations to live as one amongst these lands and world. Our ancestors endured a traumatic history that needs to be heard from the voices of their descendants that we still feel today. They also showed us through their journeys a way of life that is from the origins within our native core values and beliefs to keep going for the greater vision of our native generations to come. Through that vision, we will find a way to mend the sacred hoop of all indigenous peoples in unity for all creation. We must practice our kinship practices to restore roles as allies with all indigenous peoples of this world. If we want descendants, then we must become ancestors for the next 7 generations of people of these lands and world. We must never forget the first breath of life given to us was from Mother Earth, and we must give back in protection of our one Mother Earth. You know, with that, you know, I've shared that with you, relatives, in the best way, but I also must share for us when it comes to leadership, how we view it. When it comes to the right wing, the left wing, they're always fighting, but how is the bird? It belongs to one bird. And that's always the best part of how we view leadership through our indigenous people. You know, it belongs to the one bird, so if the right wing and the left wing are fighting, then how are we to become, you know, a strong, beautiful nation that we are? So right now, I'll kind of say that, and I'll want to say a prayer for all the relatives. Oh, Takanshla, Wichakbi Kasapa, Chichiapalo. You know, we come to you humble Unshika way, Takanshla, to pray for all creation and all the relatives, and especially all the ones that are in the suffering. You know, all the ones that are going through the hardship and the less fortunate. We all must put them before us and really pray for them, especially those who are Kuja, and those that are battling the sicknesses within their minds and within their health. So we ask for Wichozani and Woksape, especially the respect and honor needed in the humility, but also the perseverance and fortitude to keep standing as one for this nation, for all nations to survive, come together in one way, Takanshla. And I say that in a good way, Takanshla, that you keep watch over all these relatives, especially their families and the ones that have traveled here, that they have safe travels home, especially to the people that have spoken here and the ones that are speaking. It's the voice of the people that should be the one that we're echoing. It belongs to them. So I say, Woplaho Mitakiyase. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, actress, entrepreneur, and soon to be the funniest First Lady in history, Cheryl Hines.
Hello, Philadelphia. How are you guys doing today? All right. Listen, we're here for a really good reason today. One day you're going to look back on this day and you're going to say, I was there on that day when something really special happened. I want to thank you all so much for being here. It means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to my husband, Robert Kennedy Jr. So thank you. Yeah, we all love Bobby. Well, you know, it's interesting because I've been traveling around with Bobby across the country, and something's been happening that I've never seen happen before. He draws crowds, and they are full of Democrats, Republicans, and independents, all in one place. Yeah. So what that's telling me is that Americans want to work together. They want someone to bring them together and make this country better. So that's what Bobby's ready to do. He is ready to fight for the working class American because he's been doing it all his life. I've been watching him do it. As a matter of fact, you know, he's an environmental attorney, and for decades, he's been fighting against these big corporations, these corrupt corporations that were stealing from the working class American. I was in San Francisco when Bobby and his law firm stood up against Monsanto on behalf of one man, a man named Mr. Johnson, who was a groundskeeper at a school, and he would wear Roundup weed killer on a tank on his back and do his job, kill the weeds, spray the lawn, and he started developing lesions on his back. He reached out to Monsanto and told them what was happening. Could this possibly be caused by Roundup? And Monsanto never responded. So Mr. Johnson went back to work. He kept using the Roundup. He got sicker and sicker and developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And Bobby and his law firm sued Monsanto. They proved that Monsanto did indeed see these messages. They saw what Mr. Johnson had said and how he had reached out, and they didn't respond because they were making too much money. So Bobby has stood up for the little guy, for the average person who's just trying to make a living. He's been doing that all his life. They won the Monsanto suit, which of course, yeah. And then that, of course, opened up to other suits because Roundup is killing people. So one thing I know about Bobby is if he hears that can't be done or you can't do it, it only sparks a fire in him and it makes him fight harder. So I'm here to tell you that Bobby is ready to fight for you guys. Are you ready for him to fight for you? Okay, one more time. I just want to hear it one more time. Are you really ready for Bobby Kennedy? Okay. All right, listen, I know you didn't come here to hear me talk. I thank you, one person. Oh, two people. Thank you. I am not going to wait. I'm not going to make you wait any longer. The moment you've been waiting for, we're all dying to hear from Bobby. So why don't you please make a lot of noise and welcome the next president of the United States of America, Robert Kennedy Jr.
Thank you, Cheryl Hines. Hey. I need my speech. You can't read anything. You can't read anything. What? Yeah. It's upside down. It's upside down. It's upside down. It's upside down. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Del. And thank you, Cheryl, for that beautiful introduction and for making me the happiest man alive, with the most unbelievable wife. I want to thank the other members of my family who are here, particularly Amaryllis, who's done such a great job co-managing the campaign. And my son Bobby and Jackie and Becky and Anthony Shriver and Carolina and Eunice and Jesse Shriver and the other members of my family are here. Cheryl is a huge, huge football fan. And the real reason we came to Philadelphia is to watch the Eagles play yesterday. I want to thank also Louis Grassrope for giving the invocation today. Louis, as he said, is a tribal elder of the Lower Brule Sioux, the Lakota people in South Dakota. My father, about a week before he died, my father spent a full day at the Lakota reservation at Pine Ridge. There was a crowd of 20,000 people waiting for him in Rapid City. And one of his local aides said to him, "We better get back to Rapid. They've been waiting for hours." And he added that the Indians don't vote. And my father looked at him very sharply and said, "You don't know who your candidate is." And that day he saw a family, an entire family of Sioux, living in the burned out hulk of an automobile. And he wept. It's one of the only times in his lifetime that I heard of him crying. And that word of his tears swept across the reservation. And on election day, on June 5th, 1968, the last day of his life, he won the state of South Dakota with the help of the Sioux. And I go back to Pine Ridge as often as I can, and almost every time I go there, the elders share that story with me, and they tell me that it was the highest turnout in the history of the nation, and that my father got nearly 100% of the vote. There were only 3 votes that day that were tallied against him. And the elders always close that story by saying, "We're still looking for those guys." It's a hopeful sign now for our country that we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. It shows that we're ready as a nation It shows that our country is now ready to explore and to tell each other the untold histories of those dispossessed people who have previously languished on the margins. But today, as the corrupt powers have overtaken our government, the ranks of the dispossessed have swelled so that they not only include Indigenous Americans and Black Americans and Hispanic Americans, they include tens of millions of people who live paycheck to paycheck in financial desperation. The dispossessed also include the legions of the chronically ill, of the addicted, the depressed, the 80% of our country that cannot afford a middle-class lifestyle. A rising tide of discontent is now swamping our country. There's danger in this discontent, but there's also opportunity and promise. The danger is that the demagogues will hijack it toward fascism, or that our rulers will divert us to use it as a pretense for an attack on an existential enemy, and another in the long pipelines of continuous wars. The biggest danger that we've all seen on a day-to-day basis is that they'll direct that discontent against each other. As Abraham Lincoln observed, quoting Jesus Christ, "A house divided cannot stand." A polarized nation is easy for corrupt powers to manipulate and to control and to strip the wealth, its freedoms, its equity, its dignity. Those are the dangers. So what is the promise? The promise is of reunion. We are told today that our nation is hopelessly divided. But I found something different as I travel this country. The most hateful voices, of course, are always the loudest. But there are a lot of quiet Americans who are looking at disgust at the vitriol, the name calling, and the venom. They want it to end. They want us to get along. They want to end. And you know, those loud, hateful controversies obscure these vast areas of agreement. Most of us agree, for example, that we should take care of our veterans. Most of us agree that we should seek peace abroad instead of war. We all agree that teachers should receive decent salaries and respect. We all agree that housing should be affordable and that corporations should pay their fair share. We all agree that we want a clean environment, that we want wholesome communities for our children. And yet these universal yearnings stand alongside a broad agreement that our country has lost its way. Americans are weary, they're tired of the culture war, the phony slogans, the politicians who use the partisan blame game to divide us against each other and keep us all at each other's throats. And people suspect that the divisions are deliberately orchestrated and that getting us to hate each other is all part of the scam. And they're fed up with being fooled. They're ready to take back power. There's no other explanation for the enthusiasm I see every day as more and more people flock to this campaign. Sometimes it gives me goosebumps. Their minds may tell them that the situation is hopeless, that the elites are too entrenched, that the corruption is too deep. But their hearts say otherwise. I know that because I meet scores of people every day, even those in the most difficult circumstances, who have not given up on America. I've walked picket lines in Los Angeles with hotel workers who live in their cars because they can't afford rent. I visited mobile health clinics in the back routes and roads of Georgia where families get their medical care in the back of a bus. I've planted gardens in the food deserts in Watts and Cleveland. I've sat amongst migrant children at the border. I've met social workers and doctors in Yuma who treat these immigrants with kindness and heartbreaking generosity as if they were members of their own families. I've walked the fields with farmers in Kansas who can't drink from their own wells because they're poisoned by pesticides. These are members of the dispossessed now. I've sat at kitchen tables in Pennsylvania with parents working every hour that God gives them to afford a home of their own, only to get outbid by a hedge fund with a cash offer at the last minute. I've worked with veterans who serve honorably in foreign wars and come home then to a country that is bankrupted by those wars. I've eaten with small business owners who had to board up their dreams as Amazon cashed in. I've talked from moms from Nevada to New Hampshire who lie awake at home juggling unpayable bills, choosing between gasoline and groceries. I've met senior citizens who cut their pills in two to stretch out their prescriptions. And I pulled dead fish from rivers that are clogged with chemical runoff and waste. And I've read stories to children who are devastated by chronic disease. It can all look pretty dark. We seem to be cycling from despair to rage and back to despair again. The country is sitting on top now of a powder keg. Americans are angry at being left out, left behind, swindled, cheated, and belittled by a smug elite that has rigged the system in its favor. But I've also seen hope. I've traveled millions of American miles across my career. And to quote Tennyson, I am part of all whom I have met. For 40 years, Americans across the country have fortified me with their courage and their idealism. But this year, I have witnessed an upwelling of optimism that I've never seen before. And optimism isn't the same thing as denial. We have to acknowledge the truth. We do face a decaying infrastructure and record levels of suicide, depression, addiction, chronic disease. We do face an entrenched political corruption and an inequality of wealth not seen in a century. But the good news is that people like yourselves are finally fed up. Something is stirring in us that says it doesn't have to be this way. People stop me everywhere at airports, at hotels and malls, on the street, and they remind me that this country is ready for a history-making change. They are ready to reclaim their freedom, their independence. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here to declare myself an independent candidate for President of the United States. That's not all. I'm here to join you in making a new Declaration of Independence for our entire nation. We declare independence from the corporations that have hijacked our government. And we declare independence from Wall Street, from big tech, from big pharma, from big ag, from the military contractors and their lobbyists. And we declare independence from the mercenary media that is here to fortify all of the corporate orthodoxies from their advertisers and to urge us to hate our neighbors and to fear our friends. And we declare independence from the cynical elites who betray our hope and who amplify our divisions. And finally, we declare independence from the two political parties and the corrupt interests that dominate them and the entire rigged system of rancor, of rage, of corruption, of lies that has turned government officials into indentured servants for their corporate bosses. We declare independence from these corrupting powers because they are incompatible with the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that the people who sat in that hallway ratified for us in 1776, 1787. Now we can guard life. How can we guard life when the for-profit corporations have captured the public agencies that are supposed to protect us? How can we enjoy liberty when a surveillance state seeks to hide the truth and to quash dissent? And how can we pursue happiness when debt and low wages imprison so many of our nation's families? And so I've come here today to declare our independence from the tyranny of corruption, which robs us of affordable lives, our belief in the future, and our respect for each other. But to do that, I must first declare my own independence. Independence from the Democratic Party, and from all other political parties. I haven't made this decision lightly. It's very painful for me to let go of the party of my uncles, my father, my grandfather, and both of my great-grandfathers, Honey Fitzgerald, and Patrick, who was the first Irish Catholic ghetto mayor of Boston, and Patrick Kennedy, who was a ward boss in Boston. Both of them launched our political dynasty over 100 years ago. But my sacrifice is nothing compared to the risk our founding fathers took when they signed the Declaration of Independence 247 years ago. They knew that if their revolution failed, every last one of them would be hanged. They chose to place everything on the line. When John Adams put his pen down after adding his signature to the Declaration, he turned to those present and he said to them, sink or swim, live or die, survive or perish, from this day on, I am with my country. I'm going to make that same pledge to you today, so that I can stand before you, as every leader should stand before you, free of partisan allegiance, free from the backroom deals, servant only to my conscience, to my Creator, and to you. Today, we turn a new page in American politics. There have been independent candidates in this country before, but this time it's going to be different because this time the independent is going to win. Three-quarters of Americans believe that President Biden is too old to govern effectively. President Trump faces multiple civil and criminal trials. Both of them have favorability ratings that are deep in negative territory. That's what two-party politics has given us. And that's why we need to pry loose from the hammerlock of the corrupt powers in Washington, D.C., and make this nation ours again. But there's a sacrifice that everyone, including myself, have to make if we're going to reunite America. We're going to have to surrender the kind of political addiction that is ultimately at the root of all of these divisions. And that's the addiction to taking sides. Our nation's renewal is going to begin when we start to treat each other with respect. Only then will we be able to step outside our tired, stuck debates. We can ask the questions then that nobody thought to ask. We can discover solutions that were right in front of our face. We will listen not just to the other side, but to those who are apart from any side. In a two-sided conflict, both parties have a kind of mutual dependency. Each side depends on the other to define themselves as good guys, in contrast to the other side, who of course are the bad guys. Well, if you're a team good, then you'll do anything no matter how unscrupulous, to defeat Team Evil. And that's why we've seen both parties sacrificing their core values and the foundational canons of democracy in an all-out in an all-out struggle for power. In a war against evil, any means justifies the end. The result is that we ourselves become evil if we participate in that battle. The child who is obsessed with hating a parent becomes that parent. As I've surrendered my attachment to taking sides over the past 6 months, I've been able to listen with new ears to people with whom I disagree and to see solutions that would otherwise have been invisible. I'll give you an example. 6 months ago, I thought that an open border was a humanitarian policy, and that if you were for sealing the border, it meant that you were probably a xenophobe and maybe a racist. I was wrong. How did I learn I was wrong? It wasn't just that I listened. It wasn't just that I listened to the other side. It was when I actually visited the border and listened to people who weren't on either side. My views changed as I spoke to Border Patrol officers, to local officials, to local sheriffs, aid workers, and to the migrants themselves. I saw that no one party has a monopoly on wisdom, and none of the simplistic narratives actually contain the whole truth. My promise to you as president is that I'm going to do this on every issue. I'm going to listen to stakeholders. I'm going to listen to the stakeholders from every side and beyond any side. I'm going to uphold my moral convictions, of course, absolutely, but I'll hold my own opinions lightly. I'll look at the evidence and the arguments, and I'll choose not the easy path, not the established path, but the right path. In making an independent run for president, I take inspiration from the one other president who did not have a political party, and that president was George Washington. And in his farewell address, Washington issued a prescient warning about the disastrous potential of party politics. Inevitably, he said, political parties will be taken over by a cunning, ambitious, unprincipled minority who will serve the interests of the party rather than the interests of the nation and usurp for themselves the reins of government. Washington's dire prediction has certainly come true. I intend to wrest the reins of both parties and return power to the American people. Now you know, you've all heard the pundits who have been lamenting, how do we get young people to engage again in politics? I see so many young people who have now inflamed with my campaign. And the answer to that question is that that's the wrong question to ask. The problem I found is not the young people. The problem is what my generation, the old people, have done to politics. The millennials and Gen Z are repelled by the toxicity, the pettiness, and more than anything else, by the dishonesty. They want authenticity. Oh no. The problem is the politics. I'm committed to inaugurating a politics that is worthy of their engagement. I want to share with you a hopeful sign. I'm proud to say that my supporters include both pro-lifers and pro-choicers. They They include climate activists and climate skeptics. They include vaccinated and unvaccinated. They include people who for years have been on both sides of the culture war. Why? Because more and more Americans are beginning to understand that for the good of our country, one cannot insist on getting one's way on every issue. They understand that people can disagree and still respect each other. You can be pro-choice and not think that pro-lifers are women-hating zealots. You can support the Second Amendment and not think that gun control advocates are totalitarians who hate freedom. This is what I mean from independence. It's more than being independent of two existing parties. It's also independence from tribal thinking. It's freedom from the reflex of having to take sides. Instead of asking people, which side are you on? I'm going to ask people, what do you care about? What do your children need? What is it like to be you? What do you love? Because our country is never going to heal if the formula, the only formula, is for one half of the population to vanquish the other half in a pitched battle. I'm happy to say that the old political alignments are dissolving. Right and left. The right and the left have become all mixed up anyhow. It used to be the Democratic Party opposed censorship. It was the Democratic Party that wanted to rein in the military and the CIA. It was the Democratic Party that fought corporate influence. Remember when Wall Street and big corporations all supported the Republicans? Well, who is the liberal now and who's the conservative? Who is the left? Who is the right? These labels make less and less sense. Yet out of habit, we still group ourselves around the empty husks of those old alignments and threadbare ideologies. But now that habit is breaking down. That's why half the electorate no longer identifies with any political party. And 63% of Americans want an independent to run for president. Of course, the outer structures of the party still dominate the political landscapes, but they're hollowed out from within like a building full with termites. What kind of new political structures might emerge from those ruins? What is politics going to look like when it's no longer us versus them? American democracy should be more than just picking between two candidates anointed by shadowy institutions. Big oil funds the Republicans. Big tech funds the Democrats. Big pharma and the military contractors make sure to give to both. Instead of two parties, we have this kind of uniparty, a two-headed monster that's constantly bickering with itself as it leads us all over a cliff. And at the bottom of that cliff is the destruction of our country. Neither party has offered any kind of meaningful resistance to the endless wars that have sucked dry our wealth and slaughtered our youth. Neither has done anything to reverse the erosion of the American middle class. Both of them are powerless to rein in our exploding deficits. They have contributed equally to the corporate giveaways, to the corruption in Washington, and to the erection of a surveillance state. Yeah, there are good and honest people within both parties, even in their leadership, but the system itself is hopelessly corrupt. Now let me tell you, what an independent presidency will look like. Because I'm independent of the military contractors, I'll be able to pursue a foreign policy that puts peace and diplomacy first. And because I'm independent of wealthy donors, I'll be able to close the loopholes and giveaways that bloat our budget. And because I'm independent of Wall Street, I'll be able to rescue debtors instead of the banks during the next financial crisis. And because I'm independent of big polluters, I'll be able to clean up our soil, our water, our air, and protect our Purple Mountain's majesty. And because I'm independent of corporations, I'll be able to unravel the corporate capture of our regulatory agencies. And because I'm independent of both political parties, I'll be able to enact bold policies that are outside of the partisan conversation. Let me be clear, though. Being independent of the two political parties does not mean making them my enemy. Dogmatic opposition is just as much a form of dependency as dogmatic loyalty. As president, I'm going to work with officials from both parties who want to join me in serving our nation rather than exploiting and searching for partisan political advantage. Every president enters office promising to unite the nation and to work with people from the other party across the aisle. None of them ever does it. They can't. They're already chosen a side. Well, I'm not going to have that problem. I'm going to build coalitions from both sides of the aisle. What that means is that members of Congress will start working together across party lines in ways that we've barely seen for a generation. My uncle, Senator Edward Kennedy, my Uncle Teddy, has his name on more pieces of legislation than any senator in the United States history. He did that, he accomplished that because of his capacity to reach across the aisle. When during weekends at Cape Cod, my uncle would bring home people who were his political rivals, who were Orrin Hatch, John Kasich, Harry Byrd, people who were terrible, for example, on my issue, the environment. I looked at those people and I saw Darth Vader. And I would say to Teddy, why are you making these friendships? And he said, because I have a lot of common ground with them. They know the difficulties of living like a politician. And he always said to me, as much as I love our country, they love our country the same. We all believe in our country. We need to be able to talk to each other. And that allowed him to become the most productive senator in United States history. I want to do the same thing with my presidency. And I'm going to tell you that because of that, it's going to be very hard for people to tell whether my administration is left or right. Is it right-wing to support small farms? Is it right or left to pull our nation back from the brink of a war with Russia? Is it right or left to implement a tamper-proof election system that also guarantees that everyone has a right to vote? As long as we're locked in these habitual debates, the two parties are often blind to common sense solutions. The formula has left them unable to govern. Practically every year we do what we did 2 weeks ago or a week ago, which is to come this far from defaulting on a government shutdown. And that's just the most obvious example of the paralysis of the two-party system. The system runs on inertia, year after year, decade after decade. It's like a runaway bus filled with teenagers fighting about who should take the wheel, and they ultimately learn that whoever the driver is, they're all obeying a GPS with the program that's written by lobbyists and corrupt corporate insiders. So I'm not going to just take the wheel. I'm going to reboot the GPS. And do you know who's going to set the new destination? You are. Yeah. Because as I've traveled this country, I've listened to you, and I know what your hopes are for the future, and I know your idealism. And together we're going to set the GPS toward the promised land, the promise that Jonathan Winthrop gave us, the great Puritan leader in 1630, when he stood on the deck of the sloop Arbella and said, and pointed to the verdant landscapes that no European had ever seen. And he said, we're going to build here a promised land, a city on a hill, a lamp to all the other nations in the world, an exemplary nation. And we came close to fulfilling that destiny in the years after World War II. You know, when the king and queen look over the balustrades of their castle and they see all of their subjects fighting each other, they go back to the banquet room and they pop champagne corks, as they know as long as we're all feuding with each other, and nobody's coming over the castle walls. So this hatred we have for each other is orchestrated. And what my job is during this campaign and then during my presidency is to unify Americans. And then we're all going to go over the castle wall together. And we're going to take back our country. You know, Moses, during the end of his life, he had brought the Jewish people from slavery in Egypt across the Red Sea, promising them they would get to a promised land. But 40 years later, he was 120 years old, and they had not found the promised land. And the Jewish people were angry at him. And they said to him, why did you bring us out of Egypt? We were better off in Egypt. He went to God, Moses went to God and said they're going to stone me. And God took him up to the top of the mountain, and he let him look over the river Jordan. And he showed him the land of Canaan, the promised land. And he said, you can't lead them there. They need to get there on their own, but you've brought them up to the edge. But the people need to get there on their own. And he warned them, they can't waver from left or the right. They have to go forward. Martin Luther King, the night before he died, recalled that without mentioning the story. But he said to the people, I've been to the mountaintop. I've seen the promised land. I know what it looks like. And I may not get there with you, but you're going to get there. But you have to get there yourselves. The people have to decide to take back the power in this country. And I, of course, am no Moses or no Martin Luther King. And I am part of a movement where we are determined as the American people to go back and reach that promised land again. And I do know what it looks like because I've had glimpses of it during my lifetime. I know it's an America with a prosperous middle class where if you work hard, if you play by the rules, you can finance a home, you can raise a family, you can take a summer vacation, you can put something aside for your retirement. I know that it's a place where we don't have to choose between economic prosperity and environmental protection. I know it's a place where our children will have the same opportunities for dignity and enrichment and prosperity and good health as the communities that our parents gave us. I know it's a place where every American enjoys the right to vote and everybody has absolute faith that our electoral system has integrity and it's the best in the world. I know it's a place with incorruptible regulatory agencies. When I was a kid, the FDA, the CIA, or the FDA, the EPA, the NIH were the gold standard regulatory agencies in the world. The other nations in Europe and Latin America based their regulations on what our regulatory agencies said. They were absolutely incorruptible. They were gold standard science. I know that that promised land is a place which is a bastion for the rights that are enshrined in our Constitution. And I know that that promised land is a place where America is a moral authority around the world, that people look to us for leadership, that it's a place that promotes peace instead of war. And I know that America is possible when we declare independence from the deadlocked party establishment. That is the America that's possible when we declare independence from the war machine that devours $1 trillion a year. That's the America that is only possible when we stop fighting each other and go over the fortress wall. And that's the America that I'm going to serve when I become President of the United States. Now, the media pundits are going to tell you that we don't have any chance. They've given me a couple of first names. One of them is long shot candidate. And they say my impact is only going to draw votes from the other candidates. The Democrats are frightened that I'm going to spoil the election for President Biden. And the Republicans are frightened that I'm going to spoil it for President Trump. The truth is, they're both right. My intention is to spoil it for both of them. And only that inside the Beltway myopia deludes them into thinking that we have no chance of winning. I have seen the polls that they won't show you. I've sat at the kitchen tables that they don't bother to visit. I've shaken hands with tens of thousands of invigorated Americans over the past 6 months who are excited about a change. And I can tell you our campaign has ignited a movement that has been smoldering for years, a movement to reclaim democracy, to resurrect the promise of our republic, the promised land. And that's the real reason that the party elites in Washington and the insiders are terrified of my candidacy. They recognize an authentic challenge to their power when they see one. There have been anti-establishment candidates before, but none of them who understands actually how to get the job done. Unlike President Trump, I've been fighting corporate corruption and suing government agencies for 40 years. I know how they work, and I know how to clean them up. And unlike any president since 1963, I will stand up to the military-industrial complex. I will cash in the peace dividend, and I'll bring our troops home with honor. I'll rebuild America's strength from the inside out. What really terrifies the elites, though, is not me. It's what I represent, a populist movement that defies left-right division. I am merely the bowsprit of a ship that is going to cut through the armadas of corruption, of secrecy, of lies. And except for the small minority of public officials who are actually corrupt, I'm going to tell you this secret. I am no enemy to the people of the two-party establishment, because guess what? They don't believe in it anymore either. They don't believe their own posturing. They don't believe their own rhetoric. That's why so many public figures, Democrats and Republicans, have told me quietly, I can't support you publicly, but I really hope you win. And they too want liberation from the system that has captured them. And isn't that ultimately what we all want? Liberation from a system that robs us of our wealth, our health, our hope, our patriotism, our ideals, our freedoms, and ultimately our sense of ourselves as a good and capable people. Is that kind of freedom possible? Is healing our divided nation possible? If we wait for someone else to liberate us and unite us, no, then it's not possible. It becomes possible when we decide to take action ourselves. People ask me, can you win? And I want to turn that question back on you. Will our movement win? Can this movement restore democracy, health, prosperity, and freedom? I'm not asking you to make a prediction. I'm asking you to make a choice. It's going to happen if you choose for it to happen. Democracy doesn't come about as a gift from oppressive elites and authorities when they finally relent. Democracy comes when people choose to exercise their power. And so I'm asking you today to join me in exercising the sovereign choice of a democratic people. Are we ready to win? Are we ready to win? And that's what a new Declaration of Independence sounds like. Remember this moment. We have a year and 1 month until the election. Let's go take back our country. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you, baby.
Dennis wants us to do a hands up.
Yeah. Oh, hey. Hey. I love you, man. Thank you.
Seriously, it was really well said.
Yeah.
So great, right? You did a great
Let's do a hands up. You too. Let's go, Fred.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dennis Kucinich.
All right, we're not done with this program yet. Look on the screens. If you're going to make a contribution, get that QR code, make it. We are also asking you to go to Kennedy24.com to sign up now if you haven't already done that. I want to thank the U.S. Park Police and the Philadelphia Police for helping to make this possible. Let's thank them. And to all of you, where you've come from all over this country, I need your help to send a message across America right now. I need your help. And when we can, in this moment, mingle with the spirit that put this movement together, in 1776. So be with me. Let's become one and repeat after me. I declare. I declare. I declare my. I declare my. I declare my independence. I declare my independence. I declare my independence. I declare my independence. All over America, I declare my independence. Louder, I declare my independence. I declare my independence. I declare my independence. I declare my independence. Well done. Now let's go forward and take this country back. Thank you.
I declare my independence. I declare my independence. I declare my independence. Been waiting for that. It's about time. You know who else has been waiting for that? Has been waiting to hear Robert Kennedy say those words? You know, I've been waiting for him to say those words, Rick, for 16 years. As you know, I was part of a Draft Kennedy campaign back in 2007 and was trying to convince him to run for president even then, right? Trying to end that war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. And of course, he wouldn't do it because he promised his wife and his kids that he wasn't going to run for any elected office until his kids were grown. And the time was right. And in 2023, the time was right. But you know who else was telling him that back then? This guy, Jesse Ventura. This is probably one of the happiest days of Jesse Ventura's life. He's a good friend of Bobby's, and he wrote a book called Don't Start the Revolution Without Me. And I think it was like 2009 that this book came out. And I'm going to blow your mind, guys, because as you recall, Jesse Ventura was the governor of Minnesota, and he stunned everyone. He rocked the world because he was an independent, and he won, which was unheard of at the time. So in 2007, he met up with Bobby down in Mexico. I'm going to tell you this story if you haven't read the book. A lot of us were trying to talk Bobby into running even then. And he wanted Bobby to run with him on a ticket. So he goes on vacation down in the Baja, right, with Bobby's family and his wife and kids. And he just, turns around to Bobby and he says, "Do you want to run the country?" And Bobby said, "Yeah, I do. I want to." And he said, the Green Party had asked him to consider being their candidate that year in 2008. And Jesse Ventura tells him, "Oh, don't do what Ralph Nader did. You should leave the Democrats and run with me as an independent." Bobby looked at him like he'd lost his mind. And Jesse goes, "I'm the most powerful man in America." Can't you just hear Jesse saying that in that gruff voice? "Yeah, I'm the most powerful man in America. Do you know why? Why? Because I'm the only one who can unite both parties against me." And at that very moment, Bobby's little kid, Finn, one of his sons, was doing headstands and crashed into the ping pong table and hurt himself real bad. So that kind of ended the conversation because the poor kid got hurt. But later they talked again. And again, Jesse urged him to go independent. And Bobby said, well, I am independent. You should become a Democrat, Jesse. And Jesse's like, oh, no, never, never, never. He hates the two-party system. He said, I'd lose all my credibility. And Bobby's like, well, we'll talk about it. Like, I'm going to talk you into becoming a Democrat. Now, if you know Jesse Ventura, he's never going to be a Democrat or a Republican. He just hates the two-party system. So even then, he was trying to talk him into it. Now, here's the crazy part. He says, heading home that night after his meeting with Kennedy, he says, I couldn't stop thinking about it. If Robert F. Kennedy Jr. ever ran for president as a Democrat, it would be a surprise to no one. Just another Kennedy going for the brass ring. But because he can't stand what's happened to politics today, he left the party and ran as an independent. It would, to borrow a phrase from Muhammad Ali, shock the world. That's exactly what happened today, Rick. That's exactly what you just heard in that speech.
Well,
but wait, there's more. Here's the really wild part. At the end of the book, in the epilogue, Jesse Ventura calls it a glimpse of the future. And you have to go read this book, guys. Get a copy of this book. Read the epilogue where Jesse Ventura predicts the future. I don't want to spoil the ending of the book, but let's just say that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had better pick Jesse Ventura to be his running mate. Because Jesse told him how it was all going to go down back in 2008. True story.
You think that he should choose Jesse Ventura as his running mate?
Oh, hell yes. Hell yes. I mean, if Tulsi Gabbard's not available. But really, this guy had the idea first. He gets first dibs, really.
Wow.
He should. Jesse's awesome.
Yeah.
I love Jesse.
I disagree.
Who do you want to be VP?
Well, it's not about who I want. I think Tulsi Gabbard would be a winner for sure.
Yeah, that's the name I hear most.
Yep.
Everybody wants Tulsi.
Mm-hmm. And it's a perfect fit.
I think so.
So yeah. Not that I have anything against Jesse Ventura. I just
that'd be the one. I mean, imagine those two tough guys on the same ticket. Nobody would mess with the United States ever. Man, if we had, Kennedy and Ventura, it'd be awesome.
So something has changed in that campaign. You're part of the campaign team.
Yeah.
However, when I'm sitting listening to all of this today, they have given this a lot of thought. They are looking at this in the correct vein. This is more finely tuned. The messaging is on point. The words are carefully chosen. They're hitting very specific kinds of messaging aimed at very specific groups, political and just overall domestic demographics. They're reaching out even to groups that embrace ideas of individual sovereignty, individual rights and freedoms, whether it's libertarians or even the sovereign citizen movement. And that chant at the end is more important than people probably realize. It's an integral part of the whole thing. They need people to chant that from now until the time they go to the polls and cast their ballots. And that is a technique that is used in a variety of ways by even intelligence agencies to get people to do things. It's marketing, which is, I'm not criticizing it at all. It's very smart. They need that. There he sets off the wave. The I Declare My Independence wave, which will be resonating across America as in the form of that chant. That is how that's the probably the most powerful thing that came out of that entire speech. I think it will end up being one of the most important things. If that wave catches, and you have people chanting that phrase, "This is the RFK Jr.'s 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun" moment.
It was all that and a bag of chips.
Yes, that's right.
That's the moment that's been coming, not just for me and for Jesse Ventura and all the people who've been trying to get him to run for so many years, but also it's a moment for our country that's been coming for a very long time. You know, I mean, I can think all the way back to before this book was written in 2008. All my life, or most of my life, it was either the Clintons or the Bushes. Those were your choices. We were always offered two terrible choices every election cycle.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, no matter whether you're leaning to the right, leaning to the left, still the candidate that they would force down your throat. It's just awful.
So what did
So
they
you're
do?
always given
Like,
these
did
two
they
awful
did they bring
choices.
somebody else into the campaign team who kind of got them back on track? Because a lot of this stuff you and I have spoken about before. He's echoing some of the stuff that I've been saying directly to you. You know, the old
A lot of things we've
political
talked about.
alignments are dissolving. Labels make less and less sense. I've been saying, you know,
Yeah.
the old political labels don't really apply anymore. So much of what we talk about echoed in this speech. Are you telling him what to do or what's going on?
No, not me. But, you know, I think he watches some Maverick news from time to time.
Well,
I
there's a
think he
lot of
might have
effort.
listened when you said wrong party, dude. On day one of the campaign in Boston, you said wrong party, dude.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's tough as an independent because he won't have the party machinery behind him, but
Yes, very tough.
he has a much better chance now of actually winning and becoming president now that he has detached from that terrible, corrupt, broken Democrat party. It's got to get
Feels
away from that. He
good,
did. That's
man.
great. That's good for him.
Feels good, man. It feels so good. I mean, I
Yes.
left the Democratic Party 30 years ago, and it felt so good. And Rick, I've never looked back, and I've never, ever regretted it. The best thing about declaring your independence is you're free. You're finally really, truly free. And not just in politics, but in life. You know, I put out a tweet today comparing it to a bad marriage, an abusive marriage. And it doesn't matter how many years you've been trapped in that abusive relationship. What matters is that you leave, you know? And the Democratic Party has abused this man. And he's given his life to the Democratic Party. He was a good Democrat all those years, came to every convention, supported every nominee, campaigned for them, donated money to them. One of the most loyal Democrats you could ever meet. And that's how they treated him when he ran for president. That's got to hurt. You know it hurts. And
Well,
so
he said it was very painful for him to do this today, and I understand that.
he did say that. And you know it is. But at the same time, once you leave that abusive relationship, it's scary, especially if you've been in it for years, right? Starting all over again on a path that you know is going to be hard, alone, a very lonely road, running independent. It's not so unlike leaving a bad relationship that's abusive to you, but you
Yeah,
have
but
to
he's
find
not
the strength
alone.
to go.
He's not alone. There were a lot of people there today. He has a lot of support.
He does, and that movement's
alone.
going to grow. I
And
don't think
it's
there's
his-
anything they can do at this point that will take down this movement. I don't. Well, except, you know, the thing. But I don't want to talk about that.
The thing?
The thing. The thing they do to
Oh, well,
Kennedys.
we're not going to talk about that.
No, we're not going to talk about that.
No.
We're going to think happy thoughts.
Yes.
Good energy. We need to encircle this man with good energy and blessings and prayers. Keep him safe.
Well, you can see why Trump would be worried about this and his team. Yeah, you can see that.
That's what I hear. The hell is that?
Hang on a second here.
My
Major
God.
red alert, air raid. One moment, and I will bring this to an end. I will single-handedly foil the enemy. Be right back.
What the hell? My God, dude, was that the fire alarm? Funny, that reminded me of when Bobby announced his campaign in Boston back in April. There was I don't know if it was a prank or if we ever found out what the hell that was, but remember the building's evacuation alarm sounded during the middle of his speech. And there was this really awkward moment.
It was just alien aircraft, space things coming down. They were using the direct energy weapons, and I just said,
That's what it was.
I used my
was the
my special
dudes.
super Maverick night powers, and I Jedi mind tricks, and they all went away. So it's okay. We're good. Everything's normal again.
Cosmo sounds spooked. I hear the dog barking.
Yes. Sorry about that, folks. Here in the studio, it is chaos, but we'll keep it.
At your house, I would expect nothing less, Rick Walker.
Well, just hitting on all the right notes today, man. He talked about, the rigged system, which is stealing a page right out of Trump's playbook. I think he means it, though. And then talks about the actual problems facing the nation, from captured public agencies to deteriorating infrastructure. Points out very clearly that you're dealing with a tyranny of corruption. You're a party system that has actually been inverted and corrupted, so that, as we talked about before he came on to speak, Democrats like Joe Biden saying that they support working people and labor, and they don't anymore at all. That's why the populist movement, Trump has sort of taken over that role, but even there was not terribly effective in that regard, other than, I think he managed to make some improvements to the economy for a while before everything went off the rails with the pandemic, but that's another story. And
he did bring a lot of jobs.
He did.
I'll give that to Trump. He did bring in a lot of new jobs.
But rightly pointing out that these political labels, the old ones, don't apply anymore. He also makes it clear, and we've talked about this. He's no longer a Democrat. He never was from the beginning of this. He's a populist. And just outright comes right out and said it today, that this is a populist movement that defies left-right division, which is what I've been saying from day one. He's not a Democrat. He's not a Republican. He's a populist. So it's good that he's running as an independent, because he won't be weighed down by the baggage of any political party. He's free to now embrace that populist movement, which is on the rise, which is part of even the Trump movement, the MAGA movement. It's a big part of that, but it's sort of shackled by the constraints of the Republican Party itself. There's conflict within the party, and these people who maybe are tired of that ongoing conflict within the Republican Party are now free to leave and come over where there's middle ground, probably less chaos, less division. And the overall messaging here too today is actually very positive. It isn't steeped in fear-mongering, which I'm seeing, not even just within political parties, but political movements in general and online, in order to polarize people more. We saw it all through the pandemic, where they used fear to get people to do what they want. He talked about key issues, but didn't focus on the negative. He focused on the positive. So that's really good messaging. You win with that. Trump also, especially in 2016, he focused a lot on negative, but there was a certain amount of hope that came out of his campaign. But that's the shine is off that a bit. This renews that, I think, for Americans and for populists, if you will. It's a breath of fresh air for people, and I think it could be effective.
I certainly
think
hope
he's got
so.
a
I
little
know
shot
it
here.
is because I hear it all the time. Yeah. Like you said today, it's never happened before, but I'm the first independent who's actually going to win.
It's possible.
I know people say it's not possible, but it is. It is.
Oh, it's possible. I mean, I was a little disappointed to say that he did make one reference to the system as being, I think, I don't remember the exact phrase, but basically that the system is broken, it can't be fixed. But I don't believe that, and I don't think that what he said is reflective of that. In fact, I think it's the system that actually is our only chance, our only opportunity to get back to where we need to be. This is an opportunity for the system to self-correct through a candidate like him, by selecting him. It's not that the system is broken, it's that it has been taken over and corrupted by the two major parties and people who are putting their own self-interests and their own greed ahead of everybody else.
Exactly. No one's interested in fixing this broken system because they're all making profits from it.
Yep.
You see, that's how the whole thing works.
Yeah.
Everyone's wheels are getting greased.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that the system is beyond repair. We need the system. And he made reference to the founding fathers who would have been hanged if 1776 hadn't been successful.
Yep.
Very true. You see, and in a way, even and there are some other things going on in my country here, but you see him with this new Declaration of Independence. That's almost like it is I think, a legal, in this case, declaration of war on the establishment, which is also stealing a page out of Trump's playbook where he's like, I'm going to drain the swamp.
Right.
It's the same sort of idea. But for him, it's about more than that. A new Declaration of Independence is an indication that he actually does want to fix the system, which he recognizes is still needed, but needs revision, repair.
And when you do that outside of a political party, the best thing about running independent, yes, it's hard. We've got our work cut out for us over the next year and month, as he said, until the election. We've got a lot of hard work to do on the Kennedy 24 campaign. But the best thing about this is he's not defined by a party. When you're a candidate for a party, you have to go to the convention, you have to argue over the platform. There's all that pressure on you to toe the party line if you're the nominee. Mm-hmm. If there's no party, there's no party line. So you get to define what your platform is without that outside pressure, which can be overwhelming from your political party. And you've got to please everyone when you're in a political party. There's a lot of voices who get a say in what the party platform is going to be.
Yes.
So there's so much freedom here in being an independent candidate. And ideally, that's how I've always believed our presidential politics should be. As he quoted George Washington there in his speech, obviously George Washington agrees with us or agreed with us. Political parties are, they can be a malicious minority. You don't want them running the whole system. And yet that's what we have. We need to get back to the way we did it originally.
Because the parties, the people who control the party, are selecting the candidates instead of allowing the grassroots foundation of the party, the people, to select the candidates. So it's removing democracy from the democratic process by
and especially in the Democratic Party.
Yes. Yeah. How can you have democracy when the candidate put forward comes from is selected by a small group of people within the party itself. So the people never actually have a real voice, because when you go to the polls to vote, that candidate has been selected by people, by what, 5 people? 10 people, people sitting around a table. No, I mean, the way the party system is supposed to work is that the candidate is supposed to be selected by the people, the grassroots movement from within the party, so that they get to go to the convention and go through the process and elect their candidate, so that it's a candidate put forward by this group of people. And the other party is supposed to do it on that side. And other parties, if they participate, they're supposed to go through the same process. But if the people within the party take over the party and then say, all those people over there don't really get a voice, then you've removed democracy from your party. Now you have a candidate that you're installing. So you've just cut out half of America. You've just canceled their voice.
That's right.
The people within your own party who are supporting you and giving you money, that is not democracy. That's why people say that it doesn't matter whether they vote or not. It doesn't matter. We're going to end up with the same thing. And it's true. So if you have then people who infiltrate both parties and you control both parties, then it doesn't matter who wins, your guy's in there. That's why the system isn't working, folks. In fact, I went through this very conversation with a political party here in Canada just this week. As a matter of fact. But that's another story. But that's how these systems get corrupted. You need to restore democracy within the parties themselves. That's why he has left. That's why he had no path to victory. They've decided RFK Jr. is not going to be the candidate. And they've rigged their system within the party itself to make sure that he had no path to victory. So it's a good thing that he left. By now running as an independent, he actually does give a voice back to the people. If people want to change the system, then he is your choice. It's really just that simple. And it's no joke to say that you can now vote for your independence. And that's what America really is supposed to be founded on, is a country that embraces individual rights and freedoms, individual liberty, giving you, an individual, a voice to make your vote count again.
If we trust the people counting the votes.
Well, that's another story.
Election integrity is a whole other matter.
Well, that
but
again,
I'm not going to let that stop me from fighting.
Right,
anyway.
but that's another indication of corruption within the parties, because it's the parties that play games with those things. It's the parties who try to do an end run around the rules, or hijack the rules, or reshape the rules, or come up with new laws, or do crazy, unfair, cheating kinds of things, or fudge things. It's the parties that get involved in those kind of shenanigans, right? In order to put their thumb on the scale to make sure that their guy wins. The Democrats have done that for as long as I've been alive. So,
or as Bobby said, they put their foot on the scale.
Right. So
that's exactly what the Democrats have done to him. They made it clear that
that's another symptom of rot within the parties, because the parties are the ones who are doing it. It's not the people. It's not the system itself. They've hijacked the system. So, good, he's running independent. But, yeah, he's up against a lot. I mean, they even get organized crime and all kinds of, they just engage in all kinds of activities to cheat, basically.
You know, we know the game. I mean, anybody who tried to vote for Bernie Sanders knows what the Democrats do. And that's what so many of us former Democrats have been trying to tell Bobby for a long time, all the way back to this book in 2008.
Well, they don't even
Jesse Ventura tried to tell him.
Yeah, they don't even try to hide it within the DNC anymore. It's just right out in the open.
They don't care. They don't have to care. And the reason they don't have to care, Rick, is the DNC fraud lawsuit that showed us all in 2017 when a couple of lawyers sued the DNC. It wasn't Bernie Sanders. A lot of people get that important detail wrong. They think that some people say that Bernie Sanders, even Bobby says this, and I wish he would correct it because it's actually wrong. I've heard him say it in his speeches. He says Bernie Sanders sued the DNC for rigging the primaries against him, but it was actually a couple of lawyers named Jared and Elizabeth Beck. And they were just Bernie Sanders supporters. They sued the DNC. And they are going to be our guests this Saturday night on Strange Bedfellows. And they very rarely give interviews. I think they're still pretty pissed off about the whole thing, and they don't like to talk about it much. But we're going to have them on the show this Saturday night, 9 o'clock, Strange Bedfellows. Don't miss it. Jared and Elizabeth Beck will be with us. I can't talk. I've been talking so much today, Rick. I did 3 shows yesterday. I'm doing 2 more today. My mouth is tired from all this talking. And, I don't really know what else to say, except I'm really excited about this campaign more than I've ever been excited. I wanted him to run for 16 years. It was like a mission for me to get him to run. He's running, but I wasn't happy about him running in the Democratic Party. From day one, I thought it was a mistake. But I'm going to support him no matter what party he runs with. So I stuck with him through these last 6 months in the Democratic Party. But for me personally, it was painful. I'm not going to lie. Remember, I told you how much I was dreading having to go change my voter registration after 30 years of not being a Democrat, to change it back to Democrat again. I wasn't looking forward to that. So now I don't have to change my voter registration. Awesome. I'm a registered independent, and I hadn't changed my registration yet to Democrat. I was really putting it off till the last minute because I just hold my nose.
You're all set now. So
now I don't have to change my voter registration.
Yeah, I made a lot of notes here about it, but I think I've.
Yeah, what else you got? I was curious to hear your reflections, your thoughts on what he had to say.
Oh, what else do I have? He talked about getting us to hate each other. The 2 parties. True. The system to divide America. Talks about bringing America back together again. Yeah, he can do that.
He already has. He already is. I see it at every Kennedy event. I see it online in the Kennedy groups that I belong to. I hear it on the Twitter spaces, people from all across the political spectrum. But the only people I did not meet in the last 6 months at our events and on our Twitter spaces were Democrats. Imagine that. Wrong party, dude.
Wrong party, dude.
Wrong party, dude.
And that's why his messaging today was so similar to what we've always heard from Trump, Fake news, well, he's calling them the mercenary media, right? Talks, not just the elites. Now with RFK, it's the cynical elites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A rigged system, just straight up, same language. And, yeah, he'll take votes away from Trump. There's no question.
Damn right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of Trump voters, like me, I voted for Trump in 2016. Mm-hmm. Just the first time, not the second time. But he will, and I know Bobby, he will actually do the shit that Trump promised to do and then didn't do. He will actually drain that damn swamp if we can get him to the White House. That's why I'm working so hard for him.
Yeah, freedom from the reflex of having to pick sides.
Mm-hmm.
Old political alignments dissolving. Labels make less and less sense. And then this is interesting. This will appeal to people on the left primarily. But he talks about big tech supporting the Democrats, oil supporting the Republicans, and the military-industrial complex, or the military corporations, supporting both parties.
Supporting them both.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Yep. So that will certainly appeal to people on the socialist side. And then a sovereign choice of a democratic people. Well, that certainly is a signal to certain political groups a new Declaration of Independence, and then that chanting at the end to just tie it all together with a great marketing message that will continue to reverberate through people's heads over and over and over again. That's why Dennis Kucinich, the campaign manager, repeated it and chanted it and got the crowd to chant it over and over again multiple times, because it takes repetition like that to get people to take action. So that was the branding message right there. Yeah.
Well, we need a good slogan for this campaign.
Yep.
It's been driving me crazy since the beginning of the campaign. Our slogan all along has been "Heal the Divide," which I like, but it just doesn't quite deliver that knockout punch.
Well, this gives them
I
the
declare my
same-
independence. I like that.
That gives the campaign what Trump had the first time around, which was a way for them to give a great big giant middle finger to the system.
You betcha.
Yeah. And an answer to the
And
people
he
who
did
say
today.
Yeah.
Double barrels.
Right. So that's why that will be so effective. And that also takes more wind out of Trump's sails, because he doesn't have that same because he's part of the establishment now, because he's been there and he's still hanging around trying to get it back. It's just different now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm afraid, for me anyhow, the old Trump magic is long gone.
Yeah, so
long gone.
There it
but
is.
the magic, the momentum, you can't help but see it if you're paying attention to politics, is Kennedy.
Momentum
This is something
important
new.
too. Momentum is important, even though Trump is out in front. In politics, momentum counts for more than people probably realize. People like to get on a fast-moving train that is headed in what they think is the right direction. People embrace success. Success breeds success. Failure breeds failure. So even though you might be out in front right now, if people think that you're failing or sliding, you're going backwards, they're less likely to stay with you. So if there's, we're seeing a decline in Trump support month over
And in
month over
Biden's
month over month.
support.
And
I
in
mean,
Biden's support, and
Democrats
this
are-
train's heading
they're
in the other
worried about him.
direction. So if he can maintain the momentum and the other guys are stagnant or falling back, then he's in a much better position right now than most people realize. Politics is like that, and he has a lot of time. Time is actually on his side right now. It's not on the side of those other guys. Well, he's on his side. In a way, it is on his side, because he has momentum and he has time to get there. The other guys, they need to hold on. And as long as his train keeps on rolling down the track, they lose ground every single day. So that's the way it's going down.
I think they lost a lot of voters today and a lot of track today. That speech, that's one of the most popular Maverick News broadcasts we've done in quite some time. We had thousands and thousands of people watching.
We did indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people are interested in this guy. They were interested in this announcement.
Mm-hmm.
And despite what the mainstream media tells you about Kennedy, long shot Kennedy, I wish they wouldn't use that nickname. It's just tasteless to use that for a Kennedy. Anything about that I don't like. But, they call him conspiracy theorist. They call him anti-Semitic. They call him an anti-vaxxer. They call him crazy. I've heard it all. And despite all that, people are interested. They're listening to him. They don't believe the mainstream media because they know the media lies. So it's like the more the media bashes him, just like Trump, it's the Trump effect. The more they attacked Trump, the more the people liked him.
Mm-hmm.
The more they attack Kennedy, the more people like him. The more they want to listen to him.
I would say he's more like a dark horse candidate. He's like the, was it the last Kentucky Derby? I'm not a big horse racing fan, but you know the horse that came all the way from last and won the race?
That's right.
Can be done.
It can be done. But like Bobby said, it's not him who's going to do it. It's us.
Yeah.
This campaign is people powered. It's people like me. It's people like the folks you meet on the Twitter spaces that we host for RFK. I mean, this is a people movement. Every campaign is. But when it's an independent campaign, then it's really people powered. This won't happen without the people, because it takes people to get out there and get hundreds of thousands of signatures on petitions just to get him on the ballot in all 50 states. It's a Herculean task that lies ahead of us. And that ain't going to happen unless we get our feet out there on the street, passing these petitions around, collecting those signatures. That's how we win.
So that kind of lays it out for folks today. I guess it's just up to the, well, like we have a full year, and so much can happen between now and then. Even what happens
No
in
kidding.
Israel, Palestine.
A lot can happen in 2 days.
That's right.
Rick.
So who knows where we'll be a year from now. But that's the way it looks today on this October 9th, 2023.
Today I'm going to remember for a long, long time. I assure you. You know, there was something to close out. I think what I liked best about his whole speech, he was talking about the freedom of being independent, no longer having to serve the party apparatus. And he said that he would be a servant only to my own conscience, to my creator, and to you. That's his master. You know, most politicians, they serve their corporate masters. No. Servant only to my conscience, my creator, and to you. That's a promise. And we're going to hold him to it. Believe me.
Well, our coverage will continue.
On that note, I guess we're going to call it a day. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and watching our live team coverage of RFK Jr.'s big historic announcement. I don't know about you, but this is music to my ears. I hope you enjoyed our coverage. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you back here Saturday night for Strange Bedfellows, right here on the Maverick News Network. I'm Lori Spencer. He's Rick Walker. We're out of here. Peace.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.